Hello, I'm David Hunt, and welcome to my little section of Bent TV. My guest today, he is an artist, printmaker actually. What an extraordinary life he has led. We're going to find out a lot about it. Get this, European Aboriginal descent, and was accidentally born in London to Australian parents. We've got to find out about that. And sort of grew up in Melbourne, and has got a wonderful partner. God knows how he puts up with him, and a gorgeous dog as well. And they live in St Kilda, around the corner from me. But if I see them coming, I go the other way. So I'm pretty safe on that front. Founded a graphic design business, and he actually did a lot of the artwork for posters and flyers for a lot of the underground gay dance parties back in the 80s, probably early 80s, and into the early 90s as well. And this is where he got to know a lot of the people. Very, very social in that front anyway. But his first venture into being an artist, a friend went to him with a doll's head and said, here, I'm giving you this doll's head, make art out of it. And that began the whole network of it. His breakthrough was some of the great exhibitions that he's done at 45 Downstairs, one of the most prestigious galleries here in Melbourne. And it's really interesting what he does, because it's very unorthodox approach, using Renaissance-based Victorian engraving, and then he mashes it with, say, a can and crumples it up and all that. A lot of it's got to do with computers, because that's how he works. And talking about that, the motherboard on a computer, which we'll find out a little bit more, plays a major role in what he does. It's my honour to chat with him today. He's a naughty boy, so get ready for it. Chris Orr, hello.
Oh, thanks, David. All that adoration. I'm sort of wondering if you're talking to the right person. Thank you.
But you're an extraordinary artist.
Thank you.
An award winner.
That's right.
And on a couple of occasions now, and also you've been recommended so many other times, and so many exhibitions, group exhibitions or your own. Tell us, how did it all come about by accident, getting born in London?
So my parents were jazz musicians, and they were sort of a couple, but they were touring in London in the 60s and stuff, and they decided to get married. And I was there in the 60s, I think that's early mid 60s period, and they were touring around London in a mini moke, the station wagon mini mokes. I can't remember what they're called. Anyway. Mum got pregnant while I was there. I was born over there. They flew back with me, and turned out when I applied for a passport, when it was time to do my trip over to London in the mid 80s, as we do, I wasn't a citizen here. So I had to apply for citizenship. Right. Which is fascinating, seeing as my mother is my lineage on the maternal side is Indigenous, an Arunga from South Australia. We're still investigating all that. That's another story. So yes, that's how I was literally an illegal citizen.
You were born over there.
That's right, and wasn't naturalised.
Right. Okay. Fascinating.
Yeah.
So it's wonder if you were around now, they would kick you out of the
totally.
country.
And I was lucky to get a more benevolent. It was during a more benevolent period in the 80s when the immigration department a little bit, but not so gung-ho, and I got the right lady on the end of the phone. She said, we'll rush that through for me. I still had to go to a ceremony and get my eucalypt in a tube stock and my bit of parchment. It was just so much irony, but it was kind of, it was quite an eye-opener, but bureaucracy.
So are you an only child?
No, I have a sister and two half-brothers who are not related, but have share the same birthday, but different half-parents.
When did you realise you might be gay?
6.
6? Wow, that was pretty
Somebody
young.
asked me that on an interview. I think it was on, it's actually on, I think Lisa Daniel asked me. It was straight out of my mouth, 6, and she said that's quite common. A 6 is one of those informing years.
Right, okay. And how did you cope with it? What did you think?
Oh, I just knew there was something odd and different and peculiar and not quite right. You know there's something you're just not fitting into the...
Yeah, and you're too young to really work it out.
No,
anyway.
but you know you're different. You just do.
Yeah. And so it was the attraction towards seeing men or boys your own age, or?
I don't know. It was just an understanding that you were different. And none of your friends, of course, well, none of my friends would have, you don't pick up on stuff with that when you're 6, but then you're also quite alert when you're that age, but you're not as judgy when you're that age.
Yeah.
So everything is new and different. But I just knew I just knew that under my skin there was something different that I didn't quite fit the mold. I would like to play with the girls, I'd like to play with the boys, but I was also very artistic then. I was a loner as well. So
okay. Now you went to art college in Paran. It was pretty famous at that stage.
I'm one of those terrible students who, when universities and colleges were free, would get into courses and never complete any of them. So I'd always get into these fantastic courses, like, I was so competitive, still am. Would get into a course and then a year and a half later I'd drop out there and think, I might go and do architecture for a year. And I never finished anything, and I apologise to those students whose positions I forfeited by dropping out. I feel as an older, half-wiser person, I feel dreadful about it, not finishing any course.
Knowing you would have had a pretty fun time in those years. And is that when you really came out as in having boyfriends?
I was more of a music scene, as a gay man, for going to see live bands and stuff. I didn't like what was on the menu as gay clubs, as in the mainstreams, American sort of subculture, cloney clubs. I was like, no, this isn't for me. But I definitely loved. I sort of haunted the Seaview Ballroom and.
What sort of bands did you like?
I used to go and see the birthday party before that, Boys in the Band and all. It was a very sulky, broody, sort of pseudo mohawky, pouty.
Well, things haven't changed.
No.
Have they? So here you are, you're a graphic designer, and you had your own little business.
Yes.
And doing a lot of work within the gay community.
Well, that came about partly branched with what we were just talking about. I didn't like what was on offer with gay clubs, but I had a lot of friends who were DJs and stuff who were really interesting DJs, like Gavin Campbell, and I can reel off a list of names. So I was very much involved in starting clubs like Tasty and inventing club spaces that were alternative, that weren't the mainstream gay cloney club sort of things, where the music and the design and all that was. That's right, but it was more of an adventure playground of music and fashion and art and creativity.
Which was a very exciting time here in Melbourne.
Oh, it was fantastic.
Because Melbourne was one of the biggest nightclub cities of the world per head of population in those days.
We were so competitive that when we'd go to London, we'd be disappointed. We were trying so hard that we were actually overdoing it to a degree. So it was really exciting.
Boyfriends back then, did you?
I actually did have my first boyfriend I had for quite a few years, and he was killed in a motorbike accident in the Greek islands. Yeah, Mark. Yeah, so.
I mentioned in the little intro at the beginning your first venture, and it's brilliant. I even know friends who have got pieces of this. The doll's head that you were given said, make art out of it.
Yes, that was given to me for my, I think it was my 30th birthday present. Somebody gave me a plastic doll. I'm very competitive with all my friends. I said, the dare was, I bet you can't turn that into something. And I was like, I bet you I can. And I did. And that actually, whilst I was still running my graphic design business, I was definitely needing an outlet to be more creative. So I would have a scanner sitting next to my desk, and I started just ramming everything through the scanner except my body parts.
A scanner as in on your computer?
A flatbed scanner, so you put, and I would put three-dimensional objects rather than documents in it, and what that would give you was an amazing depth of field of a three-dimensional object. So a scanner has been my friend with my art career since day one, really. I still use it for all my work now.
You're a printmaker, per se.
Illustrator, printmaker, yes.
And And like you really do push the boundaries. Like you will get a soft drink can and rip it open and then scan it, and then that becomes part of the Renaissance.
Well, yes, that's right. So what I would do is I buy engravings, or some of the museums will the Rijk Museum and the Rik Museum in the Netherlands have been very generous and sent me. I've looked up engravings on their sites, and they've been they like what I do, so they've sent me a high resolution engravings, Renaissance engravings. Whoa. Or I said prints, like copies, digital copies that they will scan high res for me. Everything I scan, like the cans that I use for the background, the motherboards I scan it like 3000 DPI. So details you can't even see with the naked eye, bring them up into the forefront. So. Right. I buy engravings, I get given them from museums and stuff, and I use them as my base, and then I terraform them, or colonize them with my other bits and pieces, like the motherboard sections, or the Coca-Cola or tin cans.
Yeah. Now, we mentioned motherboard a few times, and I didn't know it, but if people are into computers, they totally know it. But the motherboard is, you have to rip the whole thing open, and the motherboard, and that's why we've got the piece of art here, apart from how beautiful it is and that beautiful Renaissance face. But this is motherboard.
So the motherboard is I guess the hub that it's the intersection of all the technology on the computer. It's not quite the brain, but it's the green board. If you looked it up and you looked up a high res version of the motherboard, if the viewers would do that, they would find a picture of it's a circuit board, and it almost has a cartographic, almost tribal looking terrain of line work and stuff, which are just all the solder lines and dots and points. So what I do is I cut them up on the computer and rejoin them together, and they're scanned at about 3000 to 4000 DPI.
And now this one here is exaggerated because it's more than, because quite often it's just the background, but this one here you've taken total control all over.
I usually do like to use it on most of all the image. So as I said, like when I said terraforming or colonizing the images, so I like to combine the old with the new and find a synergy between the old and the new to create this almost hypnotic, rhythmic sort of effect with my work. I always work in black and white primarily until I do always introduce colour later. I like positive, negative space, but everything you see here is sections of motherboards that are probably the size of your tiny fingernail.
Wow,
yeah.
Wow.
So, and it is essentially creating almost a tribal terrain over the images. And the big thing which I love about dealing with the motherboard at the moment is because of with the arrival of AI, which I find absolutely fascinating. My AI is actually stealing or hijacking our artwork. What I'm doing is ripping apart or cannibalizing the brain, or the part that actually steals our artwork, and turning it back into artwork. So I'm sort of taking away what they've taken, or what the computer has taken away, and regurgitating it.
Where did you get the idea from? Was somebody else doing it?
I thought it myself because I always think of every object having a possibility, like an inanimate object having a possibility to be something else. When I could see AI arriving, I became quite fixated on the whole AI thing. This is a few years ago. I knew it was on its way, but I didn't know how it was going to manifest.
Therefore, you were very forward-thinking, because
I've been very lucky that it's...
Because you've been doing this now for quite a few years.
Probably 9 years, the motherboard art. Well, I'm still really in the depth of it, and I'm still pushing it further at the moment. So I'm just transfixed at the moment.
Right.
People are like, not more motherboards, but I haven't finished yet.
Yeah. Why haven't you become world famous? You said about getting some of the like the etchings and stuff from overseas.
Yeah,
why haven't you? I suppose it's
well. That's very generous of you. I made a conscious choice a few years ago not to go into the gallery system. That was a conscious choice. I'm surrounded by a lot of artists who get very frustrated in that system. So I'm not represented. I've had some very generous offers, but at my age, I'm a bit of a control freak, and I don't want to be a horse in a stable of other 20 horses. I feel like I need to be in control of my own work.
Yeah.
So hence I'm probably shooting myself through the foot, because I'm not getting the exposure. But I've been very privileged to go into some, great collections and stuff, and it's happening at a pace I can deal with. And now, of course, I'm not 21, as the viewer can probably see, so I'm running out of time, but at the same time, I can't rush this, and I need to be in control of it.
Yeah.
I don't want to get lost in another system.
You virtually started your art when you were about 30, is that right?
On the side, as an sort of almost an exhaust pipe or an outlet from being a graphic designer, because I was starting to find by the time I was my late 40s that I was starting to resent my creative skill, and I thought, well, something has to give here. I need to stop being a graphic designer and do what I always want to do, is become an artist. So yeah, I've taken a risk, a very big financial risk, because it's not for the faint-hearted. Becoming a full-time artist, that's for sure. It's hard graft.
Often when you exhibit, you're actually paying the gallery to be there, aren't you?
Absolutely, we've got the choice.
Yeah, instead of them just taking a cut.
There is a choice quite often, and I'm always looking for new spaces. I'm very much like the idea of art on the street and being very accessible to people, rather than, I think, the white clinical walls. I find it intimidating still as a practicing artist to walk into a gallery and go past the front desk and go, I just find it I want art to be more accessible, and I'm very lucky to have some of my work on the street as well.
The wonderful thing is that you're putting yourself out there by entering competitions and whatever, and a very prestigious one that you won, I think a couple of years ago now, down at Geelong Gallery.
Yes, that blew me away a bit, actually. I'm just always privileged to get in as a finalist in so many competitions, and I just love to be amongst that, especially with other artists. I never have any expectation to win. Not because you'd love to win, but you just think, oh my God, they're looking at my work, I'm amongst it.
What does it mean to you, Chris, when all of a sudden you're actually told, because you're a very shy, humble person, well, you are until you get to know you. It must mean a lot to you.
It did, and at the same time, every time when some collectioners sort of wanted to acquire my work, I'm like, you sure? I'm so self-critical, and I always point out flaws in my work to people, and including gallery owners and people. I'm like, so it just blew me away, and I'm still trying to remember her name, the name of the award.
No, don't worry about that. Don't worry. So,
but it's in the permanent collection at Geelong Gallery, and I have work also in the permanent collection, the ACU and other institutions.
Right. It's a constant struggle for you as an artist, not being represented. It must be frustrating, but it's also exciting because you've got to keep looking yourself. You've got to, take the artist hat off and put I need to promote myself. I need to manage myself. How do you cope with, doing both?
That comes into play with having my graphic design business so well. So I do have the understanding of commercial production and cutting out the BS to promote my work properly and stuff. I'm not a very I'm not very floral. I can be very floral with the descriptions of my work and all that. There's a man's struggle against a mechanized society in the face of adversity. We know the art speak. I'm highly aware of it, but I do believe art's in the eye of the beholder or the viewer, and I like people to take away what they want. And I feel again that I'm in the better, as a control freak, I'm the better person to promote that rather than a gallery owner, which is rude because I know some fantastic gallery owners, but I just can't let go.
Right. Oh, okay.
It's about letting go as well.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. You also have a place down on the coast with your partner.
That's right.
And during the bushfires a few years back, it got burnt down and you've rebuilt it.
Yeah.
And you let it out at times during the year.
I grew up in Wye River, which is where it is. So that was my place where my grandmother bought a property, and she was from the Indigenous side. She was a dental nurse. She bought a block of land back there in the 50s, and I could never buy the block of land that she bought because it's obviously been sold over the years, but I managed to get a bit of back of which was part of my happy times as a child, which was down there. So I'm very lucky to have a house down there.
When you rent it out, You put your art on.
Oh yes, my artwork is in the house. So
and you can sell it?
That's right, and that has happened before, which is great. So it is curated. I have other artists' work in there as well, and there's actually a catalogue and stuff, and people can see the artwork and know who it is. So I have everything identified there. I'm not that myopic or an egotist. It's just to have my work in there.
A smart idea. Instead of just putting a
it's a point of difference.
Yeah.
For a rental. The irony is I could never afford to rent that house. It's for people who've got a bit more coin than me, but they eventually afford me to be able to have that property, or us to have that property.
When somebody mentions about a piece or buys a piece from that, does it give you confidence of going, I am on the right track? Or when you do your exhibitions, you think, I am doing the right thing, which I 100% believe in what you do.
Thank you. I'm always overwhelmed and humbled and almost apologetic when people buy my work. So I never know whether I'm on the right track. I think as most artists who are listening know, when you're in the zone, and when you're compelled to do it. That moment is only the tip of the iceberg. When the joy you get from your work is when you're creating. It's never the finished product for me. It's that moment where you're in the zone and you're hypnotising yourself, and that's a very brief moment. It's very brief, but you hang on to those moments, and that's the joy I get out of it. It's the process. It's never the piece that sits on the wall. It's the process of being, it's like a good dance track or a good, you're hypnotised within your work, and that's the joy I get out of it, and that's the confidence there.
I find I love a lot of Renaissance artists, and you often hear that they're never, like Leonardo da Vinci, for instance, the Mona Lisa, he never thought it was finished and carried it with him everywhere he went. And to the day he died, he still said it's not finished, and the rest is history. Are you like that?
Oh, 100%. I find it very hard to walk away. The pieces I'm doing even more complex than this piece at the moment.
More complex than
that?
That?
I know.
Wow.
So and I can't stop sometimes, and it is a case of having to walk away and really tear yourself away, because you can't see your work anymore. You can't actually see. When you can't see it anymore is when you have to walk away.
Yeah. Or that's like a writer. They go out or turn the computer off in the middle of writing a new novel. And then they come back refreshed. What about your partner? Do you use him as a guideline?
Poor thing, yes. I'm like,
what's his name? What's
Paul.
His name?
Paul, yes.
I know
Saint
Paul.
Paul. Yeah.
I know Paul.
As any artist partners will know, we're insufferable at times, and we put our partners through. I think, like I show you, it's going so badly. Look at it, it's terrible. And I look at this one, and he's like, I can't see the difference between that one and that one, and then like, that one? So yes, he's very patient.
But do you take on what he says? Which one he
I do actually, because he works now as a publications manager and graphic designer, so I know that I trust knee-jerk, instant sighting on an object. I do that when I walk into a gallery, go yes, no, yes, no, no, no. So
are you that quick when you look at
I
art?
am, but whether I'm right or wrong is a different equation. But I do fly through galleries very quickly.
Yeah.
So it's a knee-jerk reaction for me, and then it's an extra exploratory investigation of a work. Sometimes I'm wrong. Well, of course, more often than not, I'm probably wrong, but my way of looking at art is a knee-jerk.
I tend to be a bit like that, but I always come back and look again and really study it and work out what's going on. And I love the fact that either like speaking with the artist in front of the art or a curator.
It has to be layered.
And and getting their slant on it. And often I would change my mind completely because I thought, I didn't see that.
Yes, that has happened to me before when I describe the materials I use. People go back and have another look. Most have been dismissed before, which I love, from a well-known art, curator at a major university who dismissed everything I did was just done on Photoshop, so I grabbed that person by the arm and I took them around, and by the time I'd finished, their jaw had hit the floor and said, "I'm so sorry, I had no idea. That's amazing." So we're all wrong with the way we can look at things and pass things off as until we properly prosecute. So it does pay to
This is why I wanted this piece here in front of us now.
It's an old piece, but a favourite.
But you know, like the detail, and the fact is that hearing today, I've never asked that question of you before, that it was your concept to use the motherboard.
Oh yes, yeah. I haven't seen. I mean, I haven't seen. If I've looked up motherboard art, and it's usually things you will find on Shutterstock or something, but I've never seen it interpreted this way. And so you know, and to me, I've got a long way to still go with it.
So you still see yourself developing as an artist?
Yeah.
Well, that's a good thing, isn't it?
Yeah, but never be satisfied.
Yeah.
It's over if you think you've hit the nail on the head. It's completely over.
Yeah, actually true. Although, you know, like sometimes you actually made a comment then saying, that's one of my favourites still, you stand back now and look at that and think, yep,
yeah, because I can see it's hit a certain note of synergy. And I think what I've loved about, of course, Renaissance engravings is that almost acute, confected melancholy as well, and I love to play with that, with the technology and giving it a new sort of. I mean, the way I've introduced bits of motherboards with the weeping and the splashing of the tears at the bottom. So I'm almost adding to it, and sometimes I like to give it a completely new narrative. But I do always respect the artist whose original work. For instance, this is actually Albrecht Dürer's 12-year-old Christ.
Whoa.
Yes. So it's actually a he. Well, who knows whether Jesus was a he or a she?
True. True.
Or whether he existed at all.
True. But what you just said then, I see the tears. But you just told me something about this painting I didn't realise, that's the splashing of the tears. How gorgeous is that?
Gethsemane Garden of Tears, and Gethsemane is the garden, I think, that Jesus was arrested. To 9 Eyes, so you're arrested, and that's right. So, and this is the 12-year-old Jesus almost predicting
what was going to happen.
That's right. Yeah. I mean, and it's not intentional. It happens as I'm doing it. I see it, so I don't plan to plot it out.
Yeah.
It just happens in the zone. You know, you're starting to get a feel for it, what you're doing.
Yeah, Chris, you know, like I've and it's great because you've explained it and it makes so much sense now. I just want to congratulate you on being an extraordinary artist.
Thank you.
I think what you're doing, I can't wait until you're on the world stage, and people, it's going to happen real soon.
Oh, thank
because you are that good. I can't believe, and I can't believe that major institutions here in Australia haven't got your work, like the NGV, for instance.
Thank you.
I might help you there as well.
Oh, thank you, David.
Thank you so much for chatting with me today.
Thank you for being such a huge supporter of the arts and what is a media desert out there. So thank you. I appreciate it.
My pleasure. My pleasure. That was Chris Orr, incredible artist. You know, like, track him down because you'll love his work. Some of these pieces are extraordinary. They're all extraordinary. I'm David Hunt, and I'll be back again next month. I'm sure I will be. See you, folks.